Hello, San Angelo, with the 2025 San Angelo Rodeo behind us. We'll talk about some of our favorite moments and some of the big moments from the event. But first, we have a great interview with mayoral candidate Trinidad Aguirre. Yes, there is still an election coming up. Rodeo didn't change that. There's something actually important for the rodeo in the election, and we'll get into all that. But before we do, I'm James Bouligny.
And I'm Tessa Koskovich.
And we'll get into Mr. Aguirre after these messages from Jim Bass and Carpet Tech.
Save big on new and used cars and trucks at BassBunch.com.
When anyone needs a new car or truck, where do they go?
That's easy, BassBunch.com.
What? It's BassBunch.com.
Everybody knows BassBunch.com.
BassBunch.com. Did I hear right?
There is only one place, BassBunch.com.
If you want to save a bunch of money, the only place to shop is BassBunch.com.
My name is Cade Simmons. I'm the site manager here in San Angelo. What matters to our customers, I believe, is what we say is CT quality, CT experience, just making sure their needs are met, taking care of their home like it was ours. You just have to keep thinking of, it's never the wrong time to do the right thing. So just making sure you're taking care of what needs to be taken care of, and just knowing that they can rely on us, I think, matters to them a lot.
Welcome back, everybody. James Bouligny here with Trinidad Aguirre. He is running for mayor of San Angelo. You were at our forum a couple weeks ago. Mr. Aguirre, how are you doing?
Oh, that was a great forum. I really enjoyed that. My wife and I were talking about it, and we really thank you. That was something I think that was very beneficial to all the viewers.
And I think we had like 50 on Facebook pretty much
Wow.
the entire night. And it being a Friday night, I mean, there's other things going on in town.
And a lot of activities going on, so that was a big thing.
But why'd you decide to run for mayor?
When you look at San Angelo, first off, it's my hometown. I'm a veteran, and I know there's a lot of veterans here. I've got a bachelor's degree from Angelo State and a master's degree from University of Dallas. But when I ended when I decided where I wanted to live, it had always been San Angelo. I had to leave San Angelo because there wasn't good jobs here in San Angelo at the time, so I went to go work for Verizon and started out at the bottom. I was a technician and rose to be the president of Verizon over 17 states.
Oh, wow.
Had about 12,000 employees and probably close to $1 billion worth of budget. So, coming back and having all that expertise, I decided that, being mayor, when I looked at the mayoral candidates, one of the things that I was very concerned about was that I didn't believe that a lot of them had not only the education, but the corporate experience to run the city of San Angelo. And it's at a crucial place right now where we've got to do something.
Right, absolutely. I think that we're kind of getting to that point where we're at interstates running through San Angelo and everything. We need to attract bigger businesses to San Angelo. How would you plan on doing that if you could?
One of the biggest things that I take a look at is economic development. Economic development is always on top, and I think San Angelo is doing a not so good job in economic development. When I look at what's happened, say in the past 8 years, or probably a little bit longer, when first off with the COSA DC. We started out with a gentleman by the name of Sean Lewis, and he left San Angelo to go with Harold Dominguez when he left. So we brought in Roland Peña, and Roland was doing a real good job, and then all of a sudden he left. And then we brought in Guy Andrews, and he stayed for a little while, got into some discussions with our city manager and our mayor, and he left. And then since then, it's been vacant. So if we're really concerned about economic development, why haven't we brought in a strong economic development director? And then when you take a look at what's happening in the Chamber of Commerce world, since passing of Phil Neighbors, and Phil was a good friend. He and I traveled actually in a couple of airplanes together, going to different locations. But we've had Dan Koenig, we've had Bruce Partain, we've had Walt Koenig, and now we've got Steve Alhinius. So when you take a look at what we're doing, we can't seem to get traction. And that's very, very important that, if we're going to do economic development and we're going to do the right things, we need to have a steady government entities that take care of us from the coast of DC. Things that I would do different is, you mentioned the interstates coming in. We got I-27 and I-14 coming in. They're probably not going to be here for a few years, but what can we do? We've got to be shovel ready. What does that mean? It means that San Angelo needs to decide the exact locations where it's going to pass. We need to decide what kind of economic development do we want out there. Do we want commercial? Do we want retail? Or do we want residential or a combination? Those are the things that we need to decide. We need to develop the property around it and then really work with TxDOT to see, what we can and cannot do. But other than that, what we need to do is we've got a lot of entrepreneurs here in San Angelo. And when you take a look at the entrepreneurs and what they're doing, they're our lifeblood. My concern is San Angelo gets its revenue from two sources. One of them is the commercial and the other one is the taxpayers, the residents. 70% of our money for the tax side of the house comes from the residents and only 30% from the commercial. And the other one we get our money is from sales tax. But what I'm more concerned about is the lack of commercial to take it off. You're going to be talking probably about the bonds.
I was about to say, you were talking about residents.
Yeah,
we got two big bonds coming up.
Why do the residents have to pay for them? We haven't taken care of the commercial side of the house, and therefore it falls on our backs. I don't like the timing of the two bonds, and honestly, we're a town that is in decline right now. Depends on where you look. Some people will tell you we're about 100,000 people. But I've seen everything from as low as 97 to 98,000 people, and it's decreasing. When you take a look at our unemployment, it's about 3.3, which is terrible. You want an employment around 5%. And now that seems contrary, but when you have 5% employment, you got employees. A lot of the businesses that you're seeing closing is they can't find employees. So getting back to your question, what about the bonds? Because we don't have the methods to pay for them, I think the bond election for the Coliseum should have been delayed. I do not understand, why they had to bring it up now, to compete with our school system. Right. In my opinion, it should have been delayed a few years down the road or pushed down a few years. With 97,000 people, or for San Angelo, I believe the rodeo is right-sized for now. As we increase economic development, as we get more people, and as we have more employees, I think that's the time to increase. I was talking about how I rose to be the president of Verizon. It was through education. I graduated from Lakeview. I went to ASU, and a lot of the people from Harvard used to call me boss. Right. So Angelo State is a great university. We've got great leadership, and so from that side of the house, you cannot take away from our public system. A lot of confusion as to, the curriculum versus the buildings. I can tell you from experience that when you got a 60-year-old building, it's going to need repairs. I don't care how much maintenance you've done to them and everything else.
It's going to need code updates and everything.
It's going to need code updates. It needs everything. New air conditioning, new heating. So the buildings are old. They need to be replaced. But from you look at the teacher side of it, that's almost a different aspect of the business. We need to address that, no doubt. But at the same time, we need to understand that they're two different scenarios.
Yeah, I too think that having both bonds on this one election I think it's bad timing as well.
It is bad timing.
Just for both of them, it just seems like you're putting a lot on the taxpayers at that point, especially with almost $400 million going to SASD and going to the Coliseum as well. What they want, that is a lot to put on the taxpayers.
And the difference too is that it's not over yet. We're still taking a look at potential of the convention center, a different bond. Now we want to pay that through the hotel tax, but again, that's an increase for someone, and that's there. We're looking at increase, doing something with the river stage. This is West Texas. It gets hot out there, or it gets cold. But at the
Oh,
same
you're telling
token,
me, man.
yeah, so the West Texas, is the river stage the right place to put our money? The downtown San Angelo, people are tired of the downtown San Angelo. They're coming back and saying, stop. It's at a good place now. Let's focus on the senior citizens. Let's focus on some of the animal control centers. But my big focus that we're kind of never even talking about is the police department. Did you know that San Angelo, by some report that, and not some report, by a report that I got here, is we are rated number one for being the worst, the top worst drug cities in Texas.
I did not know that.
And when you talk about the deaths, predominantly drug overdoses, it's like 10.9% of our population, or of the deaths per 100,000, is doing that. What can we do about it? I believe that Mr. Griffin, or Chief Griffin, is one of the best chiefs we've had. He is by far on top of it. He just announced that he has a partnership with the sheriff, to tackle the drugs. But we need to support him. He needs a new building. The building he's in was designed for 90 people. He's supposed to have about 170 employees now, but he's only got like 159. So there's major discrepancies. So our goal, for economic development, still staying on that topic, is we've got to help our police and we've got to help our sheriff's department be able to do the jobs they need to do, so we feel safe and people feel safe coming to us.
All right. Well, say you win. What does your first 90 days look like?
My first 90 days is everywhere I go, people talk about the permit process. So my first 90 days, well, the first thing that I will do is I will meet with my staff, which would be the city council, and hopefully we're going to get 3 new ones, and we'll stay with 3 that are still in office. We're going to come together as a team, and we've got to decide how we're going to operate. We need to make sure that everything is as it should be, and we need to be that team that I'm referring to. We need to meet with the city manager, and we need to explain to him that there's certain things that we need taken care of, and that we expect execution. I understand the charter that we can't go to his employees, but and that's fair. So we've got to work with him. But the first item that we're going to attack would be the permit process. I probably know now, I met 2 last night, 3 or 4 businesses that have left San Angelo because our permit process is so broken. And instead, everyone comes in and says, we're going to make it better. It's not. We're making it worse.
I've talked with a couple people who tried to open it, and they said it's just painstakingly trying to get through it.
Well,
for the permits and everything.
When we come back even to affordable housing, which is part of the permit process, there's a lot of people out there that understand that we've got to work on affordable housing, that we've got to be able to support the residents here in San Angelo, but they can't get through the permit process. Whether it's some of the new parks are what they call the greenfield areas, whether it's the drainage system, whether it's, the other aspects of it, just being able to the lot size, of the unit. We're making it almost impossible for the development to take place that is actually needed. So that'll be my second step. First, create the team, then take a look at that. And then what I'd like to do is really focus on economic development. So those will be the big 3 items for me.
All right. Well, you were at our forum a couple weeks ago. Was there anything that was brought up at that forum that maybe you wanted to expand on a little bit more, or is it something that wasn't asked that you feel like you need to answer?
I guess in closing, the one thing that I would like to, for all of the voters out there to truly understand, is the magnitude of the job for mayor. That's something we don't really ask. And maybe we should be asking each of the candidates, can you spend a full time or a full day on the job? Because when I was the president of Verizon, I could not be mayor. And do you have the experience to do it? And I'm not talking about, day-to-day operation. Have you ever ran a corporation? Have you ever ran, anything of the magnitude of San Angelo? And, a lot of people will say yes or no. Well, I ran the marketing department, or I was, in a different area. It's totally different. Everywhere I go, and again, we talk to the people, they're saying our employees have a terrible attitude. You go down to the animal shelter, you go down to the permit office. Everywhere we go, we've got an employee issue, and that's upper management. We need to ensure that our upper management is taking care of its employees. And I mentioned the dog shelter. I think that's high on my list as well, because that work where we are today with everyone coming back and stating how bad it is for our pets, that job was supposed to start March of last year and be finished by November of last year. Nothing got done. So all in all, I think that what we need to do is try to let the voters know that this is a very big and important job, and they need to take a look at qualifications, not friendships, and not, the good old boy network per se. It's time to look at qualifications and get the best man for the job.
Well, especially with all the city council seats that have come up as well this year, this is a huge election for San Angelo.
And it's ripe for our future. We're trending the wrong way, but it wouldn't take much to bring it back to the positive trend that we need to go forward.
All right. Well, Mr. Gary, we appreciate you coming on today. Was there anything else that you wanted to?
No, you guys, just a thank you. And
we appreciate it.
And just a real thank you to y'all. Y'all really do provide a great service. And I guess in closing, what I'd like to do is just simply say, I believe that I am the right person for mayor based on my qualifications, based on the time and the dedication and the understanding of what it takes to run a city. So vote for Trinidad Aguirre.
All right. Well, we
Thank you.
appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Back to you. All right, Tessa. You worked your first rodeo with us. What'd you think?
It was exhausting. It was absolutely exhausting, but I had a freaking blast.
You made a lot of friends out there, too.
I made a lot of friends at the Rodeo Association. I got to meet a lot of cool people. I'm exhausted, but I had a really good time. And the rodeo is something I love, so.
Right. No.
No matter how tired I was still ready to go out there and do it.
Yeah. We met Andy Hilton. Mm-hmm. He's the pit boss down there. He's in charge of making sure the steers and the calves get out. And we met Marcus Herrera, who was tough to get an interview with. We ended up getting an interview with him and Dirt Mafia.
Finally bullied him into it.
Finally. And some of the San Angelo Cowboys, we talked to Ty Harris, we didn't get to talk with Joel Harris, but
we didn't.
We talked to Dylan Hancock.
And Taylor Bays.
What'd you think of those interviews?
They were fun. They're super nice, and I appreciate, even though Taylor and Ty and stuff, and Dylan, they didn't get the runs that they really wanted, they were still more than willing to come on camera. Right, and talk to the people of San Angelo, so that was super sweet. No,
it's awesome that they recognize the San Angelo community. Mm-hmm. And hey, we're gonna throw y'all a bone here. And
right.
Even though Ty did post a 7-second,
No, yeah, afterwards.
Down.
But I think we got the interview with him at first before he.
We did.
Before he made a time.
So we got two, and we just decided not to run that first one. We just ran the second one. Ty was great. Out of the bull, I like T. Harris or T. Parker a lot.
That kid can ride.
When he said he went 8 for 8, I'm like, I don't know about that. And then you're like, well, you can look up.
Yeah, you can look up the stats. It'd be kind of a silly thing to lie about.
Like, all right. And then he almost went 3 for 3 at the San Angelo Rodeo.
Yeah, 7.7 seconds on that last bull.
So he was 0.3 seconds away from going 3 for 3. Mm-hmm. I liked it. I mean,
yeah, he's a really nice guy.
And he's got that attitude about him where he's just gonna go out there and he's gonna do it. And it was really great getting to talk to him. It's also great talk. I want to shout out Clayton Smith. Goes back to Dirt Mafia. When we got done with that Dirt Mafia interview with Marcus, he said, hey, go out, and they're making crawfish out there. Clayton Smith sat there and made like 120 pounds of crawfish.
Good crawfish, too.
And there was corn and potatoes and everything. And he said, we just do this to give the rodeo guys a little bit of a different... You're not eating carnival food or concession food all the time. And we missed out. They made crab legs one day.
I know.
So
I'm really bummed about missing that, but that crawfish was good.
So I would like to shout out to Clayton Smith. You do something tremendous for the rodeo, and that was really cool. That was one of the cooler days we had out there, just talking with him and talking with Marcus and all those guys that are kind of behind the scenes. I kind of wanted to highlight the people behind the scenes that don't get a whole lot of, that they want to be behind the scenes.
They like being behind the scenes. They don't need all the recognition.
Right, but it's they do such an important thing to get the rodeo up and going, even though I know it's not just them, it's everybody.
All the volunteers out there.
But it's so important that, obviously the dirt's important,
Right.
And everything those people do behind the scenes is so important. And then we could talk about the bond real fast for it. that's going to be on this election coming up. It's going to add more seats, and it's just going to bring more people to the rodeo. And it's going to
more seats and more toilets. They're pretty adamant
Yep.
about that the toilet situation.
And the women out there were pretty excited about having
the women
those
were happy
lines.
about it.
Like I walked up and down because I was checking cards, checking everybody, making sure everybody's okay. And I would round that corner, and the line would be almost to the doors. That's how I guess how much they lack at the moment.
Because there's the one decent sized bathroom at the entrance, and then at the other side there's like 8 facilities in that restroom. So there's not,
Yeah, so
Not
more
abundance.
toilets and everything would be great. More seating would be great. Because that's our whole thing is, we shoot it and we come back here and we shoot the show and I drop clips over interviews. And we're all about getting as many people to view the rodeo as possible. So I think when I did the quick math, and it was real quick, I think we had over 330,000 views on just rodeo content from just Facebook this year.
Holy cow.
Which is great numbers for
Yeah.
us. And so 5,000 people can get into the Coliseum.
5,000 extra.
5,000 extras now should this bond get passed. And I think it might be kind of just be bad timing with the school bond, but we want the rodeo to continue to grow. I think everybody wants the rodeo to grow and bring more people out there. And yeah. That's
right. Yeah, so, I mean, if you want the rodeo to grow, vote for the bond. If not, it's your choice.
I mean, 330,000 people are watching our stuff. There's obviously people who want more rodeo. So, anyway, and then we had a kind of a sad moment on the finals.
That finals, that first bull.
Surprise, the first bull went down with, they said he had
a spinal injury.
And
a spinal episode, and
they had to euthanize him, and
it was the humane thing to do.
And I would like to point out that they said it has less than 0.1% of rodeos or something. I'd have to look at the number Boyd said again.
I mean, I've probably been watching rodeos for 15 of my 22 years, and I've never seen that happen. A broken leg is one thing, but a spinal injury is it's something that
it's a freak deal,
rare.
and it's not like it's easy for I don't know which contract, but Pete Carr Rodeo, whoever, they have a lot of money invested in these animals.
They have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, invested into these animals.
I was talking to you about it when we were walking back to the car. We talk like racehorses. We're talking about racehorses. Seabiscuit was obviously the one that comes to mind. But it's the same way for bulls and rodeo is when you have the genetics of an animal, you want that, you have certain things you want, you end up breeding that animal or getting, a case full of to help further that animal's line, and there's a lot of money involved in it.
There's so much money. That is the good thing I will say about owning the bull, though, is that you have access to this bird.
Yeah, you knew a lot more about it than I did, so.
I just know a lot about AI.
I mean, you knew more about rodeo than all of us probably combined up here, so.
It's a hobby.
But did you have fun?
Oh, I had a blast.
All right.
I had a really good time. I'll definitely be doing it again next year.
All right. Well, this has kind of been our little segment here about the rodeo. I'm glad you had a good time. It was a lot of work. 2:00 mornings.
So much work.
2:00 mornings. Early mornings the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, early mornings the next day. But it was a lot of fun. And I guess when we'll come back, we'll have weather from Jay Chandler.
It's hard to believe how reckless some people can be and how hard they fight against real victims. You need a partner who consistently beats the giants and who will never, ever flinch.
All right, now into weather. We hope you like the rain because there's more coming this week. Right now it's 83 degrees outside, and that drops down to 55 tonight.
In the afternoon tomorrow, the high reaches 86, and we have a slight chance of some thunderstorms, about a 20% chance. Then tomorrow night, rain chances pick up to about 60%, and the low will be 60 degrees. Wednesday and Thursday, the high is 80, and storm chances start off around 50% and increase on Thursday to 70%. Lows will be in the low 60s on both days, and rain chances are around 50%.
And then on Friday and Saturday, there's about a 30% chance of some showers. Highs will be in the mid-80s, lows will be in the low 60s. I'm glad the rain kind of missed us.
I
know
so
it
glad
rained,
that
but
storm missed us. And
it was all
hail.
north of us, and they said there's baseball-sized hail out in Carlsbad. So
yeah, I was not ready to deal with insurance.
Well,
not ready for that headache.
Well, I imagine all the people at the rodeo were
Yeah.
thankful too that it missed.
Because there's no covered parking out there.
No, there's not. So thank goodness it missed. As long as it's just rain, if there's no hail, it's not a big deal. As long as it's just rain, it's not bad.
With how dry our dirt is, though, we're going to see a lot of flash flooding with how much it's supposed to rain. But we need it.
It'll keep the dust down.
Supposedly. Until we're back here next
That's
week
what
talking about wind warnings.
That's what Marcus did. Marcus said they wet the dirt down for the barrel races and everything.
I know.
You got to check out that video when we get it done. Marcus and the Dirt Mafia did a really good job with us.
They were really fun to interview.
They were. We'll be right back after this quick word from Condos, Diamonds, and Coins.
When it comes to unique pieces you can't find anywhere else, Condos, Diamonds, and Coins is your one-stop shop. With over 24 years in the diamond and coin industry, Condos, Diamonds, and Coins is West Texas's choice for diamonds, jewelry, coins, silver, and gold. Owner Bill Cano stands by his work and offers free consultations, including estate jewelry. Don't just trust anyone with your valuables. Come see the staff at Cano's at 1016 West Beauregard in San Angelo.
Thank you for watching the Live Daily News Show.
The only locally news show in the Contra Valley.
Go like us on Facebook, X, and other social media platforms.
And download the San Angelo Live mobile app. For the live team, I'm James Bouligny.
And I'm Tessa Koskovich.
And we'll see you tomorrow.